And we started. So a very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us today for our Live Well Live webinar. We're going to be doing a deep dive into sleep and why this is such an important aspect of health and weight management. So stay tuned for some hopefully interesting information. I'm Ruth Taylor. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm the nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor, also a registered nurse. And we like to bring these webinars to you every week as much as we can on a Monday. We'll be switching to a Tuesday when we have the bank holidays in April and May. So just to let you know in advance of that. And just also to let you know, if you have any very complex medical questions, we will direct you to the right person to get any answers that may be helpful to you. But we will take any generic questions that you've brought with you today. If you have brought any questions along that you know already, please feel free to put them into the Q&A box. Ideally, pop them there because they're easier for Sanam and us for me to find, or for both of us to find. We're going to start by sharing a few slides with you as always, and then we'll come to your questions about halfway through the webinar. So, Sanam, over to you. We'd love to hear who you are.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here this afternoon. I'm Sanam. I'm one of the senior independent pharmacist prescribers. I'm also one of the weight loss leads here at Boots Online Doctors and really looking forward to this webinar.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sanam. We know you've been with us a few times now, so that's great. I'm also joined today by Sheetal and also Gareth, who are here helping us with all IT queries. So do feel free, and they will be sharing any resources or links with you that come up that are relevant from today's webinar. So why are we talking about sleep? Well, I'd like to start by asking you how your sleep is. So we're going to share a poll with you. So please, can we share the first poll if possible? Sheetal, if not, Gareth. If not, I can share it otherwise. But I'm going to start by talking a little bit about why sleep is so important. But it'd be really good to know how your sleep is. How is your sleep? I know mine is better some days than others, I have to confess. And I'm sure there's a whole load of reasons for that. But yes, I think it's something, a work in progress. So I can see from those of you that are answering the poll, don't forget this is completely anonymous. We don't know who's answering what, we just know that people are answering. So no one is sleeping well so far. Of the people who've answered the poll, no one is sleeping well every day and waking feeling refreshed. Isn't that worrying? A lot of you, oh no, we've got someone. Thank you. Thank you for being that person in the room. If you've got any top tips, we'd love to hear them from you. A lot of you are saying that you sleep okay, but feel tired in the day. Some of you struggle with sleep regularly. I wonder what that means. Is that most nights? And some people are saying their sleep is poor most nights. So that's actually quite a significant number of people. And so it's really helpful for us to know how relevant this is. So thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. Okay, cool. Something's happening on my laptop, but never mind. So you might really be asking yourself what sleep got to do with weight loss. And some of you may be sleeping well, as we know, not very many of you. And others are working towards just their weight loss goal and haven't really put any thought into the aspect of sleep. But many people think of sleep as not something that we need to put any focus in during that weight loss journey. But actually, what we know from looking at the research and understanding what's going on in our bodies physiologically when we don't sleep, this becomes a really important area for us to put some attention in when you are on a weight loss journey. When your body is sort of losing weight, we want you to have really, really stable hormones in that process as much as possible. So we know that with sleep, these hormones can become dysregulated. So let's talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah, so, oh,
Yeah,
sorry, thought that's them.
are you okay there?
Yeah, sorry, carry on, Ruth.
No, you carry on. Weight is predominantly affected by two hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is our hunger promoting hormone, and leptin is the one that tells us that we are satisfied, that we're full, that we've had enough to eat. These hormones are interesting, really affected by how much sleep we get. And researchers found that if we don't get enough sleep or we don't get good quality sleep, the amount of ghrelin that we produce, our hunger hormone, can really be impacted. So we're going to look this in more detail because this is really important. But we also know when we've had poor sleep, our food choices change. That's what the research says. We all know that probably ourselves as well. But interestingly, it really has a fundamental effect on our appetite, the foods that we sort of go to eat, the choices that we make, the things that we fancy more, all change around how much we sleep, how badly we sleep, how well we sleep. So let's go into this in a bit more detail. And Sanam, you're going to talk a little bit more, aren't you, about stress and cortisol and all of
Yeah,
those.
so there's lots of obviously you've probably heard of some of these sort of hormones before and some of these chemical names before, but they're all very important in the, like I think we've mentioned, in the sort of overall sleep cycle. So if we go into sort of cortisol, so too much cortisol does impact our production of melatonin, which is sort of like our sleep chemical. So cortisol usually should peak first thing in the morning, sorry, helping you to wake up.
Oh, we've lost you.
But if your cortisol level, oh, sorry, am I here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Sorry. Yeah, so if your cortisol levels will peak first thing in the morning, so helping you to wake up. But if your cortisol levels get dysregulated, this can affect your production of melatonin, which is a sleep hormone, and then hence your ability to sleep. So sleep deprivation or poor sleep does affect, sleep quality, does affect sleep quality and disrupts the natural cortisol rhythm. So lack of sleep generally tends to lead to higher cortisol levels at night, which can interfere with then your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep, and then creating sort of that vicious cycle where you just go around in circles. So too much cortisol can disrupt sleep and also lead to weight gain. This is also true when you're in weight loss maintenance. So it's not just about when you're losing that weight and making sure you're getting sleep for that period. Actually, we're talking about long-term goals here as well. So just to maintain that weight off and to keep your weight as the sort of, if you've lost weight, just to keep it there as well. You need to make sure that the sleep is of good quality. So excess cortisol can, as Ruth mentioned, can disrupt the hunger hormone ghrelin, that will lead to more cravings. We do look into this more, sort of in our stress webinar as well. So if you haven't signed up for that, do sign up for that as well. It's quite an important one. There's lots of factors which do affect our sleep and sort of like our cortisol levels, which can lead to issues with sleep. So we've got like caffeine intake, blood sugars. So again, if you're not sleeping enough, you're going to probably reach for the sugary snacks instead. Long-term stress, long-term pain and inflammation, and obviously shift work, which is quite a difficult one because if you are doing shift work, it's really quite difficult to sort of get yourself into a regular pattern. And they've got also sort of sex hormones dysregulation that can affect your quality of sleep in both men and women and how long you sleep as well. So we're talking about estrogen, progesterone in women, and testosterone in men. So we also got to remember, so when we lose weight, our body remembers that its previous set point, which is what remembers your weight being as before. So it might try to bring you back to that set point and back to that old weight that you've lost. So balancing your hormones through good night's sleep really help your body adapt and sustain that new weight that you've achieved. So it's really important, I think, with those factors as well. And then I think, Ruth, you're going to talk a little bit more about poor sleep.
Definitely. So, I mean, I find this quite fascinating because I have historically been a poor sleeper. So, for me, this is such a relevant webinar, and learning about it is very helpful to my personal health as well as to health of many other people, I think, because it's not just weight that we're here for, is it? It's actually also our health. So, actually, if you know that your sleep is affecting you in terms of your physiology, that's going to be affecting your health as well. So I think this is really important. And this is what I'm going to talk about now, because the research is quite shocking, in fact. And what it says is, okay, we know that we'll have problems with our hunger hormones if we don't sleep well. And I'm sure we all recognize that we probably do eat a little bit more, or that we crave those slightly sugary or sort of less healthy snacks. Interestingly, when we don't sleep well, we really aren't going to find that we are as satisfied with the food that we eat. Actually, it just has a really difficult impact. And actually, some research that we've looked at shows that if we sleep less than 5 hours most nights, on average, most people in that situation are going to consume an extra 300 calories. And those calories often come from the less healthy foods like the ultra processed foods or the high saturated fat foods. It also suggests that the type of eating or when we eat is going to be later in the day when our energy is really beginning to dip. But perhaps that's when we're less active as well. So the double whammy might be that we're eating more of those less healthy snacks that are really difficult for our bodies to cope with in the first place, going to affect our blood sugar, going to affect our insulin production and really affect our ability to lose and sustain weight loss, but also just create maybe a situation where we've got more inflammation going on in our bodies as well. And then you get into that whole vicious cycle. So, interestingly, a study that I looked at on some healthy people, some research was done, and they subjected these healthy people to being in an environment where they only slept for 4 hours a night. And what they found after 6 nights, those people went from being totally healthy with no blood sugar problems at all to being pre-diabetic. So that's just 6 nights of poor, broken sleep, which is absolutely stunning, I think. Also, we found the research says that if you have less than 5 hours of sleep a night, every night, regularly, routinely, you've got a 40% higher chance of being overweight or obese. So that just shows how important this webinar is for everyone who's here. So hopefully this is some hard-hitting facts that will maybe make you think, okay, I'm really sleeping badly, routinely, regularly, which we know from our poll right earlier on that most of you are really struggling with your sleep. So weight loss could be quite hard for you. So we want to help you sort of calm things down and get that sleep nailed a little bit more. And maybe for a couple of weeks, actually making sleep your priority might be really something to focus on and be helpful. So, Sanam, over to you. Let's talk about caffeine.
So caffeine, I think we're all probably big fans of caffeine in one way or another. So whether that be through chocolate or, coffee. So when we're talking about caffeine, we've got coffee, tea, hot chocolates, which do contain caffeine as well. Green tea, matcha, Coke, which is quite a popular one. This can go on, to be honest. It's really important to sort of think about how much caffeine we're having and in the context of our sleep. So 400 milligrams is generally considered to be the upper limit of caffeine we should be consuming in a day to avoid sort of those negative side effects of jitters, anxiety, and sleep problems. So if you're within this limit and struggling to sleep, then we would suggest that you probably reduce this and switch to decaffeinated drinks after lunch, decaffeinated drinks after lunchtime. So the reason we say normally lunchtime is because people do process caffeine differently at different rates. So you do clear it out of your body at different rates, and it varies between individuals. So generally, it takes about an hour for the caffeine to peak in your system. So after that, it does stay in your system at that peaked level for a few hours after, and it will take about 5 to 6 hours for those levels to decrease to half. So if we're talking about midday, by about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, those levels you had at sort of a midday will be reduced to about half. And then it will take another 5 to 6 hours to reduce those levels to another half. So that's why we sort of say before midday, because it gives you time to clear that caffeine out of your system, especially if you're struggling to sleep. But again, that depends on, how your body adjusts to sort of like caffeine and stuff as well. Also consider the impact of too much sugar and refined foods as well. So if you do drink a lot of, teas, coffees, or whatever, if you do tend to add sugars to these as well, that can affect your sugar intake for the day as well. As well as alcohol can have an effect on refined foods. These also have an effect on sleep quality and the quantity of sleep you get. So if you're maintaining your weight, caffeine timing still matters. So it's not just for the weight loss journey, it's also very important for the weight maintenance stage of your journey as well. So this does, even small late intakes of caffeine can reduce that restorative sleep and affect the appetite the next day as well. So if I give you a few sort of examples of what we're talking about when we say sort of like caffeine, so just to put it into context of how much, so depending on what you sort of drink throughout the day. So if I give you an example of sort of like 8 ounce cup of that's around about 230 mils of, we've got say an Americano latte, you have 1 or 2 shots of that, that's about 75 to 150 milligrams of caffeine. So just having 3 of those in a day sort of goes over your 400 milligram limit. Then we've got like instant coffee, which is about 30 to 90 milligrams. They've got like Earl Grey tea, 40 to 60. We've got green tea, about 20 to 45. Then we've got matcha, which is about 35 to 70. Then we've got white tea, which is about 15 to 30. And then we move on to the really low ends. We've got decaffeinated coffee, about 2 to 7 milligrams, and decaffeinated tea, which is about 2 to 5 milligrams. Although they are decaffeinated, but they do contain small amounts of sort of caffeine as well. They've got like cans of sort of Coca-Cola, which is about 34 milligrams of caffeine. So it's really important when you think of these in context of how much you should be having in the day. And if you are quite a large, sort of coffee drinker, whether you should switch over to maybe decaffeinate a little bit later, have your cup of coffee in the morning or whatever you prefer, or before midday, even if you're going to have 2 cups, and then move over to maybe decaffeinated, probably best thing I reckon.
Definitely. I really do know from speaking to lots of people how significant this whole caffeine story is. I was working with somebody and she was drinking caffeine and was really convinced it didn't affect her at all. But when we cut it out, she went from sleeping only 2 or 3 hours a night to sleeping 7 hours. And it
Mm.
was, it was so surprising for that person because they just didn't think that caffeine really had that effect on them and was very reluctant, but had tried everything that you could possibly think of to try and get some sleep. So I just think, goodness me. So, how much sleep should we really be thinking about getting? So, the research says realistically, for most of us, we need to be getting around 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. And you can't bank sleep. You can't think, okay, I'm going to have several nights where I don't sleep well, and then I'm going to make up for that at the weekend and have lots of sleep. It doesn't quite work in that way. So we need some level of consistency. Now, we know that we all have quite busy lives. We know that there will be shift workers here in the audience today. I've definitely been a shift worker. I know how hard it is. I don't know if you've done shifts, Sanam, but it can be really difficult to get that whole cycle and the sort of circadian rhythm working for you again. But I think it's about just setting that mindset as well. Sometimes we almost need to really carve out in our diaries what that means in reality. What time do you need to go to bed? If you've got to be up at 6 in the morning, what time do you need to go to bed to get those 7-ish hours sleep? It's really important to start thinking about this, I think. So start thinking about setting yourself enough time in the evening to give yourself the opportunity to get this much sleep. We know that a short sleep duration of 6 hours or less a night is really associated with people with a higher BMI. So this is a real key factor in weight management, both in terms of the weight loss, as you said, Sanam, but also in maintenance. We can't just get it right while we're on a weight loss journey. We want to get it right for life. And also just thinking about those inflammatory aspects. There's so much now in the news, isn't there, about inflammation being an underlying factor in many diseases. So I think actually just think about that link between poor sleep and inflammation in your body, and it gives you an absolute opportunity to actually really reset your health potential as well. So we know that if we manage to get that sort of 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night consistently, and we pair that with eating sort of a low glycemic anti-inflammatory approach to eating by following something like the core meal plan, that can really help in terms of appetite regulation and also your metabolism. So these are really important steps to be thinking about. So Gareth, I don't know if you want to share the core meal plan and also the protein content in food, because those two things work really nicely together, and also the vegan sheet as well would be useful, I think. So really important, really, really important. So Sanam, tell
Yes,
us.
you touched on the core eating plan. So that's really important to balance these hormones. So it's vital if you're, experiencing sleep disruption. So it's true for weight loss and weight maintenance as well. So not just, again, like we said, probably emphasize a lot that maintenance as well. So not just for the weight loss journey. So if I give you a few examples, which are quite interesting. So 2 kiwis at night, they can boost your serotonin. That might help improve your sleep cycle. And it's found to help people get to sleep faster and sleep for longer as well. Might have been not one that I would have expected to sort of help, but I guess it depends if you like kiwis, but that's actually a good one. Almonds, they're a good source of melatonin and magnesium, which are both helpful for promoting restful sleep. So I've got also moderate, just generally moderate portions of protein before bed can also promote better sleep, especially tryptophan-rich proteins such as like eggs and avocados. And they've also got casein protein, which are found to help with muscle mass and those who are building muscle. So it helps slow, it gives you slow digestion and absorption. And you find it at quite high levels in milk and dairy products. So, even if you had some milk and almonds before you go to bed, which is sometimes a nice combination. I've had that before, so quite like it, but not for sleep purposes. But it's generally, keeping those high protein sort of snacks at hand as well. So if Gareth has shared that sort of protein list, probably a good idea to go through that. Maybe find a few things that you like on there that you might like to sort of snack on and stuff. So if you are finding that you're hungry in the evening, that is the main thing that you want to do. So just focus on those high protein snacks and, pick a few things off there and keep them at hand. So when you do get, because late in the evening, people do tend to reach for those sugary snacks and probably those unhealthy sort of products and stuff. It's just like a nice evening snack, but just having something high in protein around will probably be quite helpful.
Yeah,
So,
very much so.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely know. I've had a few people who've tried the kiwis, and actually, it really does seem to work. So, and actually, if you want some extra fiber in your diet, have the kiwis with the skin on as well. There's no harm in doing that. So,
Never had that before, but
got to try it, Sana. So let's think about drinks. We've talked about reducing your caffeine, which is really important. And I think one of the key things with that caffeine is the half-life. So it can take up to 20 hours to actually clear that caffeine out of your system in total. So we're really keen that you think about this. If sleep is something that's really eluding you, really think about it. Be brave. Try something different. So there's a couple of drinks we can signpost you towards that can help with sleep and with sleepiness. So there's the tart cherry juice. It's from the Montmorency cherry. I'm an absolute fan of this stuff. So I probably should have shares in the company, but sadly I don't. It's got high amounts of melatonin in, which can promote sleepiness. And it's recommended that you have some diluted every day, maybe a couple of times a day, maybe, we can reset our whole sleep pattern from the minute we get up in the morning. So we'll talk about that in a minute as well, because it's not just what we do in the evening. Also, passion flower tea can increase the production of a calming neurotransmitter called GABA. So that can help calm us down. So if we're one of those people who's got a very busy mind, and that's one of the reasons we're finding it difficult to sleep, try some of these teas. They can really help to calm things down. Chamomile tea has also found to increase sleepiness and reduce insomnia. So 2 cups a day. So we would suggest swapping over to chamomile in the afternoon. And also just reducing alcohol. We know alcohol is something most people will tend to fall on in the evenings for whatever reason. It tends to be something that people will often use to sort of ease the stress after a busy day, or just becomes a habit. Well, if sleep is a problem, then actually alcohol is something that could really be interrupting your good quality sleep. But also don't forget all of those hidden calories in alcohol too. So it's really worth just thinking, is it helping you in the long run, or is it just a short-term fix that we can find some solutions around? And as Sanam was saying, a warm evening drink can also help to anchor that bedtime routine. So really worth thinking about all of those things and just seeing which ones of those recommendations work for you. We're going to think a little bit about that circadian rhythm now and how we can possibly reset it, which is really important. Sanam.
But like Ruth said, it's not, when we say sleep, everybody always thinks what we're doing in the evening, but actually setting your body clock up from the time you wake up and getting that rhythm sort of like in place sort of from the time that you wake up and then that work your way through to the evening, just to get that circadian rhythm. So we just kind of thought through some really good ways you can reset your body clock and get it back into its natural rhythm so it works to its best potential. So if you can do this, you're likely to feel a lot more alert, have better strength, stamina, and just more control over what you're eating. So you're probably actually going to not want to feel for those sort of like sugary snacks and sort of unhealthy foods that you might pick out for. So maintaining regular sleep and wake times just really helps your metabolism stay balanced. So just picking up maybe it might take you a while to sort of set what that sleep time is going to be for you. So, you might not be able to achieve it. You might want to adjust it and you might have a plan, but you might want to think about, I can think like, I've done this before where I'm going to sleep at 10 o'clock. I don't get to sleep at 10 o'clock because I've got 10 things to do before I have to go to bed. So you just have to sort of work a plan out for yourself. Might take a few weeks, but that's fine. Just to get yourself into a regular routine and a pattern that you can maintain and actually will help with that regular sort of body clock. So a consistent circadian rhythm supports hormone stability as well. So that's really crucial for keeping that weight off. So the best way to reset your body clock, go outside for 5 minutes as soon as you can after you wake up. So that will help regulate your melatonin. That's a sleep hormone that you release throughout the day and allows us to drop off at sleep at night. So generally speaking, getting as much daylight as possible will help you feel more alert. So if you're working, maybe sit by a window, especially if it's nice and sunny outside. The more light you get in the daytime, that's really good. So block out blue light. So that's the light that you get from devices and screens and stuff. So, if you tend to be a bit like me sometimes where you reach for your phone, which I've now put away from my bedroom, but you might reach for your phone and scroll before you go to bed. It's that type of thing. That blue light, that blue screen, it suppresses the melatonin. And that's that all important sort of sleep hormone. And particularly try and reduce it in the afternoon and evening. So wear glasses to avoid screen time later on in the day as well. So they're all sort of like good top tips to help your body get back in, get into a rhythm. So sort of getting that sort of sleep time, avoiding the screens, getting that light early on in the morning. They're all quite important to sort of help try and regulate that natural body clock. And we're just going to sort of go into some more detail about how to wind down in the evening.
Yeah, so Sam, who is obviously part of the lifestyle medicine team, he's not with us today, has recorded a really nice sleep shavasana. So we can send you a link to that. And it's really a savasana to help you wind down. It's a type of meditation that you can do to really help you with a good night's sleep. So try to create that dark environment. I know for myself, the darker the better. So maybe having a little bit of cool air in the room can also help. People like to be warm, but some cool air circulating is good. So a combination of nice blankets, but some cool air too. And maybe think about doing a little stretch before bed, doing a little small meditation or some breath work. Maybe if you've got one of those really busy minds or you've had a stressful couple of days, put a little journal beside the bed so you can jot down any thoughts. Just putting them somewhere and getting them out of your head can be really helpful. And also, if you wake up in the night, just doing that as well can also be helpful because some people will find that may be the trigger for wakefulness, then they'll wake up and not be able to get back to sleep. So it might just be worth having somewhere to jot things down. Having a bath can be really great. It sort of raises our core body temperature, but then brings it down again as well. And also things like the sort of apps such as Headspace and Calm. And there's also another one, I can't think of the name, but the Calm and the Headspace are really good and often have free trial periods if you've not tried those before. So really think about those things to really help nail your sleep because it's just a process and it's just about learning really and resetting. And just something you said earlier about changing your bedtime, Sanam, and it made me think, yeah, it's sort of like I think the recommendation is to bring it forwards by half an hour every day. So it's not, you don't jump from going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening. It's just impractical. Your body's not going to cope with that. So you literally need to work on bringing that bedtime forward over a period of a few weeks, really and truly, and just resetting that sleep time in a really sort of gentle way, and that may help. It can take quite a few weeks if it's sort of something that you've established pattern of going to bed really, really late. And so just this summing up slide really. So we know that poor sleep really affects our appetite. That's going to have a huge impact on cravings for high sugar, high fat foods, which is going to have quite an impact on our ability to lose weight in the long term and in the short term. We're going to snack more. We're going to just not be able to stick with our health goals so easily. So really, we want to really help you to work on this and to make this something that you put some focus into. So finally, before we tell you a little bit more about what's coming up over the next few weeks, we've got a poll for you. It'd be really nice to just hear from you what you think is maybe impacting your sleep right now for you or your weight management and your weight loss. So let's have a look at that because it's time to start thinking about, okay, what do I need to do differently? What could I make my focus this week? Because we want this to be really instrumental in helping your successful weight loss journeys. We don't want to just be talking to you about sleep and not getting you to think about, okay, what do I need to do differently? There's no criticism here. we're humans just the same as everyone else in the room. We all have habits that we need to be thinking about. So it's just about bringing your attention to something that perhaps could be helpful for you to be thinking about. So I can see around 40% of you are thinking about your sleep quality and duration. Some of you are thinking about that late night snacking and eating. So that's a really good one to start thinking about. It may just be a habit. It may be just, habits are really important for us to be thinking about. Have we got into that habit? Stress and that busy mind. We do have a whole webinar on stress. So if you've not been able to attend that, I think it's run quite recently. Although, to be honest, I would have to look at, I have not got the dates in my head. So if not, we can share a link to the recordings of previous webinars so you could catch that on a recording. It's really worth thinking about, how you manage your stress and is there anything you can do differently? It's definitely quite a tricky one. Irregular routines, that's really interesting. So what could you do about that? That's quite a few of you who are really noticing that is perhaps something that's holding you back. And food choices, really interesting. So take a look at that core meal plan. By no means does anyone need to be perfect. We are not here telling you to be perfect. We're just telling you, okay, let's see what you can do to help get you where you want to be. What's more important, eating the wrong foods, making a food plan, or losing the weight? We have to make choices, and sometimes those choices are easier than others. We all know that as well. So finally, our marketing team are looking for your stories. They'd love to talk to anyone who would be interested in being featured in a real story. We're looking for people who are on their weight loss journeys and who are finding that they've used the Boots Online Doctor Service and really would love to inspire others to really be inspired on their health journeys. So if you're interested in sharing your story and want to learn any more about that, please do email the marketing team. And Sheetal or Gareth, please share the link if you can. That would be great for people to contact the marketing team. So we've done our final poll. That's really interesting. So about 40% of you are going to be working on sleep. I'd be really interested here in the chat box what you might work on over this next week and before we're back with you next week. So please do tell us. And just to let you know what we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. So Monday next week we'll be here. We're talking all around the psychology of weight loss and how really our thoughts really control a lot of what happens in our life and in our day and how we live and what we eat. So that's really important. We're switching from Monday the 6th, which is a bank holiday, to Tuesday the 7th, where we're looking at what strategies we can put in place to stop weight regain. We know a lot of people who lose weight will regain it. So we want that not to be your story as much as possible. And then the science of lasting weight loss is coming on the 13th of April. So please do join us for any or all of those. And we're going to now close the slides and we are going to come to your questions. And before we do that, we're just going to ask you which phase of weight loss you're on. So please do fill that in, and Sanam and I will take a look at what questions we've got. Okay. Okay, so somebody's saying, and I'm really sorry to hear this, so thank you for telling us that you've had sleep disorders for chronic pain related to a chronic pain condition, and actually hearing all of this is quite depressing. I'm sorry it's depressing. Hopefully, I know you've obviously had a lot of help, and you've been to clinics to manage your sleep as well, so you've probably had a huge amount of help, but it's about pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, I would say. So it is about if your pain is well managed and your inflammation is reduced because that's well managed, that will be one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. If you can make the right food choices, that's another piece of the jigsaw puzzle. If it's something that you lean on caffeine, you may not, but it's all of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that are relevant to you. I think when you're in that chronic situation, it's about looking at each of those pieces and actually just making little changes can make a difference. So please don't feel disheartened. It is, we really understand there are a lot of people in a similar boat to you. You're not alone. And it can be really difficult. So we really
Because it
appreciate
can be quite overwhelming as well, isn't it? With what we've
it.
discussed today, we've probably discussed about, quite a few different things, waking up in the morning, what you're eating, and it can be quite overwhelming. And like Ruth said, they're all parts of the jigsaw puzzles. You're not going to do it all together. It's not all going to fit in together. So just take whatever you can and do whatever you can gradually.
Yeah,
Uh,
and also you've mentioned not being able to do vigorous exercise. Honestly, the research around exercise and weight management are very clear that actually, yes, a little bit of toning of muscles is really helpful, which doesn't need to be vigorous. It can be very gentle. We have a whole series of videos for movement that have been recorded by the Boots online doctor team. Um, so please, Gareth, could you share the link for those because they start at the lowest level of ability. So they're not for people who are used to exercise. They're for people who want to just get started. And it is about that preservation of muscle mass. So do take a look at those and see if there's anything that would be relevant for you. Obviously, some may not, but some may be. So really hope that helps. Okay, so somebody's asking a really interesting question, Sanam, about sleep deprivation. Can it increase fat around the hips and stomach areas, even if you don't eat more and have a healthy diet? My answer to that is yes, absolutely. I think that would be absolutely a key aspect of why you may have found that you've gained some weight in those areas or put on a little bit of extra fat. One of the things that raised cortisol will do is increase that fat deposition around your middle and also increase the amount of the sort of visceral fat as well. So you would potentially notice that just in relation to sleep deprivation. Would you agree, Sanam?
Yeah, it's with the sleep deprivation and fat, and it does all link in with obesity being a bit of an inflammatory condition as well. So I think it all quite links in with that visceral fat, and definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Let's find.
Hmm, got one
Okay.
here, I think. About 6 weeks ago or something. Have I gone too far down? Ruth?
Oh, okay, don't worry.
I think there's one you started 6 weeks ago. Your weight was 110 and now it's 107. 3 weeks in, your weight's not moving.
Hang on, where's that?
I think 13.
Oh, is that on the chat box or in the questions?
Chat box, webinar chat on there.
Oh, okay, I'm in the questions. Please,
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. You go.
no, you go
I'll
ahead.
let you take
That's
over. I think
fine.
I'm
No,
in the
but
wrong
if
chat
you
box
want
then.
to, no, go on. Yeah. Do you want to do
Uh,
that?
yeah. So I think there's some mention of some side effects. I think where whoever your provider is probably message them separately and they can probably advise you on that. Struggling with your meals. So again, we've got the core meal plan, which will be quite good as well for you to go through that. If you are getting your prescriptions from us, do message us and then we can advise you on some of what you've mentioned here. But what you look for in weight loss would be around about half to 1 kilo a week. So I don't think you're doing particularly bad. You only started 6 weeks ago. You're actually quite on track, really. You've lost about 3 kilos, which is fine. Most people, that's a good steady weight loss, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But if you are getting the additional side effects, do message us for that one. So
Yeah, and don't forget, I think we tend to think the scales are a reflection of everything changes overnight. And actually things shift around. You could have a little bit more water, fluid retention for some reason. There might be a little bit more inflammation affecting how the scales look. It could be that you've eaten a food that doesn't really agree with you, which could be causing inflammation. So I would just be as pragmatic as possible. Also work on your sense of well-being, your energy, maybe do some centimeter readings around your waist and your tops of your arms or your thighs, and really track all of those things as well, because we can notice that we can lose those centimeters in measurements and not be losing weight per se on the scales sometimes. So it's sort of like things shift around differently, I think. Somebody's saying they have sleep apnea. So they sleep for 12 hours each night, but still wake up tired. Are you sleeping too long? What should I do? That's really tricky. Sleep apnea, I think we have a link, Gareth or Sheetal, to the Stop Bang questionnaire for sleep apnea. So if you are waking up every day feeling really groggy and tired and you feel like you've slept, it's worth checking. that questionnaire and then going and having a consultation with your health professional GP and just see if that might be something that's relevant to you. Um, 12 hours doesn't sound overly long. Some people do naturally need that 12 hours, so it just depends on your normal pattern and rhythm. The fact you're waking up still feeling tired makes me wonder if you are getting enough oxygen overnight, so that may be worth checking and just seeing what's going on there. You said you've got diagnosed with sleep apnea, so are you having some support with that? And are you eating foods in the day that are going to be supportive of your energy? Because one of the reasons we like the cool meal plan is because it's low sugar, low glycemic, low carb, sort of got carbohydrates in, but the sort of whole grains, so they have less impact on your blood sugar. You're coupling that with some really good quality protein and some fiber from your sort of colorful vegetables and some healthy fats. That can really help in terms of managing your energy in the day. And if our energy is managed in the day, it can really help with restful sleep as well. So it sort of all works together. So have a look at that and just see and check in with yourself as to there's any sort of high sugary snacks that are coming in regularly that could be disrupting your energy for the next few days. Great. Somebody was saying about the caffeine quantities. Can you remember that? It was sort of like 150 for an Americano, wasn't it?
Yes, it's about 75 to 150 for Americano latte. So that's if you're, one shot will be about 75, two shots will probably be about 50, 150. That's sort of reduced down.
So 3 to 4 coffees and less,
Mm,
isn't it? So, and just think, and some people have high sensitivity to caffeine. So actually they may need less than that. So there isn't a rule of for everyone that's the same. We're all very different. So
mm,
it's really worth just seeing if you're really struggling with sleep and you're getting everything else right, but the caffeine's still there, it's really worth thinking about just having a trial and seeing how you are with less or no caffeine for a while. We don't recommend cutting caffeine out overnight if you're drinking more than 2 or 3 cups, just because you can end up with a really awful headache. So you would bring that amount down slowly.
mm.
What would you recommend for somebody who's in with constant sleep issues due to pain in the back and hip areas? Could we recommend some other support, such as magnesium? Um, we can't recommend, specific products for specific people, but if you're a Boots Online doctor customer, please do write in, and we'll see if we can give you some advice. There is no harm in trying. There's a really nice magnesium oil that you can rub on. So it works best after a bath or a shower just because your pores are open, so more receptive to absorbing. You can put Epsom salts into your bath water or you can get a magnesium oil spray. So those would be something that you could try with no ill effects or contraindications. So that would be possible. Okay, is TV also blue light? Yes. Some of the modern TVs have got blue light screens, but not all of them. So it's worth checking if yours has. Somebody's asking about water cooling mattress covers that keep you at a specific temperature, wondering if they might be a good idea, but they are quite expensive. I haven't looked at any research around that. Have you, Sanam? I'm
I
quite
haven't heard of those actually. What are they in the water?
water cooling.
No, I've not heard of those.
About grounding mattresses or grounding
Mm,
sheets the other day. So I'll look at that I'll put it on my list of things to look at because I've not read any research. I wouldn't like to comment one way or another and waste anyone's money. That would be rude.
mm,
Um, oh, is white noise something that's helpful on a regular basis? It's a bit like the calm and the headspace. All of these things are different for different people. Music can be really helpful. White noise for some people can be really helpful. Personally, I find white noise really helpful. So, yeah, but not for everyone. We're all different. What do you think, Sanam?
Yeah, I don't particularly. I know a lot of people do use it actually. I know some people who do use it and it's quite useful for them. Some people like the meditation type tapes, which are quite calming voices and sort of help you fall off to sleep. They're normally quite good as well. So I've tried those. I quite find them quite handy. So
Yeah, that's good. Somebody's saying the sleep Shavasana link isn't working, so we will look at that. So apologies for that. Um, Somebody's saying they wake up between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. and find it difficult to get back to sleep. That is a time when our circadian rhythm, that we're finding that our cortisol will start to peak. So it can be notoriously a really tricky time to get back to sleep. Some people find that a small carbohydrate-rich snack before bed, something like a couple of oatcakes with some almond butter or some natural yogurt with some berries of some description may help. So just a very small and like a mini meal really, and see if that helps. But yeah, it is not uncommon for people to be finding that they're waking up in that really horrible time and then getting back to sleep can be really difficult. Somebody's asking about creatine, whether it can help with energy levels and weight loss as a result. Well, we have started looking at the research, haven't we, Sanam, around creatine.
Yeah.
So I think what the research suggests is if you're somebody who is regularly doing some strength training in a gym or at home, creatine can perpetuate the effect of that weight training and may help very gently with weight loss. But if you're not doing that, then the research suggests it's not helpful. Somebody asked me the other day about the mental health effects of creatine, and I need to go and research that, so I can't comment. Have you read anything about that, Sanam?
No, I haven't read much on that actually. I was still, again, like researching that. So,
Yeah, I'll add it to our list. Thank you. But thanks for asking. We're very happy to go and have a look and see if there's anything that helps us understand. I think anecdotally it may be helpful, but I would hate to say I definitely know that for a fact. Um, Somebody's saying they've been struggling to sleep for a while. Do we have any tips on how to sleep longer? I would say get that morning light on your eyeballs, get the day off to a good start, think about your caffeine, eat the sort of protein-rich foods during the day, really balance your blood sugars as much as you can, and really set up your evening, really set yourself up not to be on those screens, to be off the screens as early as possible, get the caffeine and the alcohol down or out if necessary. Really think about all of the aspects. It's a big jigsaw puzzle, I think, sleep. And it's sort of like the quiet impact on weight management that we don't always recognize, isn't it? So it's really worth having a go at all of the tips that we've shared. Just do them one at a time. None of us could do all of those tips in one go. So if there are three or four that are relevant to you, just do one and then see how that goes, see if it makes a difference. Then the next piece of the jigsaw puzzle comes in. Okay, someone's asking if drinking alcohol just at weekends might impact their rhythm across the week. That's a really interesting question. In terms of alcohol and half-life, again, it will be like caffeine, so it might take several hours to actually clear it completely through your system. So I'm just thinking your liver would potentially be working harder, which could then impact your quality of sleep. Sanam, what do you think?
yeah, I think, and also it's quite important. So, if it is over the weekend, if it impacts your sleep over that weekend, that's going to then take you out that rhythm again. So, you want to make sure what you're doing is quite a sort of a maintained regular pattern as well. So just whether it affects your sleep or not, I suppose you might know when you've drunk before whether that does affect your sleep much or not. But I think if you're doing it sort of in short bursts, that might do because that sort of set you off track a little bit. So if you've sort of maintained that sort of sleep pattern during the week, and then on the weekends you do drink, and then you fall out of that sleeping cycle. So
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. Somebody's saying, not a question, but they are sharing some good news that they have moved from having 5.5 hours sleep a night to now more than 7 or 7+ hours sleep a night. And it really seems to be making a difference to both your eating and your hunger and the ease of maintaining your weight. So I'm absolutely delighted and thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's really, really good to know. So thank you for sharing. If you have any tips to share on how you manage to bring it down or increase your sleep, I suppose actually to increase your sleep is the right way of talking about it. Do share them in the chat box because honestly, anything, we all do different things and we're all different. So somebody's saying they find it quite hard to stay focused on diet and get distracted and then fall off. I think you are so not alone. It's really helpful to just know that. And it might be that you need to plan and just make a plan. It may be that you need to, boredom. I think I speak to lots of people. Boredom seems to be a real detractor for being able to stay focused. So is it that you can bring some more exciting things into life that aren't food? Is food your crutch in life? Is there other foods that you could eat to reduce that boredom? If boredom's a factor, think about why it's hard to stay on track. Is it that you're just a bit bored with what you're eating or the routine? Can you change that routine? Might not be possible. Sanam, somebody's asking about the type of sleep and that they're only getting about 25% deep sleep. I think that actually is probably quite normal. I don't think we have huge amounts of deep sleep. So we will go through all different types of sleep during a night. But you're finding that you're exercising a lot, eating well most days, and just can't seem to lose any weight. I think sometimes we can almost over exercise. So it might be worth just seeing if adding in some rest days would be really helpful. I think we forget that our bodies need rest to repair and to be working effectively. So maybe just a walk on 2 or 3 of those days and then some more intense exercise on 2 or 3 days and a
I know
complete
for the
day.
largest, yeah. No, sorry, Ruth, I interrupted you there.
Yeah, I know what.
No, I was just going to say the largest impact you're going to get is going to be through your what you're eating. So, keeping active is very important as well. But, if you've not sort of downloaded our core eating plan, just what you're eating as well is going to have a huge impact. So you did mention obviously most days, which is great. But just really look at what you're eating and whether that's sort of fits in with our core meal plan and whether you're sort of following that through as well, because exercise is great as well. But again, really need to focus on what we're eating. I think is a sort of bigger impact on your weight than you're going to get with sort of like the exercise. I don't know if you agree with that,
No,
Ruth,
I
or
do. I think all of the research says, okay, we need to be finding a way of our muscles being toned and strong, but actually, the sort of old adage of calories in, calories out, and making sure that we balance the scales. It's just the science is very flawed. So we need to, that's why we don't talk about calories so much here, because not all foods are equal. How they are used in our body changes. They might have equal calorie requirements, but have completely different effects on our health and onto our weight management. So we try to avoid calories on the whole. There is some small good reason to look at those occasionally, but it's not the story. We want all of us to learn to just to eat those foods that are sustaining of life and health, really. And so that's that core meal plan, the Mediterranean style of eating, really important. Somebody's asking about earplugs or headphones at night. I think there are some special sleep head earplugs that you can get. So for some people, it is, helpful. Other people find them really annoying, and it might be that that can really irritate them. So have a look at that and see what's relevant for you. I don't know if there's any harm in trying them. So it's again, it's absolutely fine. We're all different. In the chat box, I'll try and have a look and see what you've popped over there as well. So, gosh, so somebody's saying they increase sleep by being really disciplined about going up to bed. I find listening to something quite boring on the radio helps to block out other thoughts that might be preventing sleep. Exercise during the day really helps. Also, when I do yoga in the evening, also good. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really great to know what you're doing. I also listen to things. It really does help calm my mind down. So agree with you on that. It really does make a difference if you've got a busy mind. Is fasting okay with weight loss injections, eating 2 meals a day? It's very much up to you. We would recommend that you probably need to be thinking about not putting your body under too much stress. So you want to be eating enough to be healthy. So you need to be thinking about what's your minimum that you need to be eating. Some people do really well with 2 meals a day. I think as long as you're getting your protein in those 2 meals, and we recommend 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh 100 kilograms, you'd need 100 grams of protein. So try and make sure that you're nailing that protein, even if it's over the 2 meals. Um, would you agree with that?
Yeah, so even if it's over two, you just if you are having those two meals, just the nutrients that you're going to get, because when you're trying going on your weight loss journey, you just need to make sure that you've got the adequate nutrition as well, because it'd be quite easy to let that slip.
Yeah.
So I think two meals is fine as long as you're getting the adequate nutrition and you're not becoming malnourished. I think that's normally fine as long as you get protein intake and all the rest of your sort of plate that you should be getting.
Yeah, somebody's asking about ashwagandha. We can't really comment on that. Unfortunately, in this webinar, we would need to look at people's individuals' medications and really look at any drug nutrient interactions. So we really wouldn't be talking about that. Please do feel free to ask your healthcare provider, whoever they may be. So if you're a Boots Online doctor customer, you can actually email in on your patient records. Somebody's using a snooze band, which is both a sleep mask and has built-in headphones. Perfect. I've got the sleep mask and I use my phone, so maybe I should try a snooze band. Making me feel bad now, but thank you, Laura.
Seen those actually. I think I've never tried them, but I've seen them. They're quite.
Somebody knows. I would just put it into a search engine. I'm sure. So they're called snooze bands, right? I think we're suddenly going to be recommending those. Someone's got a padded silk snooze band, a lot nicer than the basic ones. Otherwise, the wires dig in. Okay, we are going to become snooze band experts. Thank you. Somebody got theirs online, so just Google it. I didn't say that, so that's okay. I probably shouldn't say that. It's obviously advertising and agents. Okay, so I think that has brought us more or less to the end of this. I'm just whizzing up. Um, so you've answered the question about slow weight loss. So yes. Okay, so somebody is saying that they feel unwell. You've put your mobile number on here. We really wouldn't recommend for you to do that. I'm actually going to Gareth, I don't know if there's a way we can remove comments from the chat box. I don't feel it's safe to share your mobile number. So please, in future, we would recommend not to do that. If you're a Boots Online doctor customer, please use your patient messaging system. If you really experience significant side effects from taking any of the medications or you're really struggling, we want to know. We absolutely want to know. We are here to support you. And the whole team that sit behind us and sit in the Boots Online Doctor team are waiting to take your messages. So please let us know if you're struggling. We really don't want that to be the case. Great. So I think, Sanam, any last words from you?
No, I think just gradual changes. So don't feel too overwhelmed. I know, I think I mentioned before it can feel quite overwhelming, but just those gradual changes and maybe even monitor yourself, like, how you're feeling after you've made some of these changes. And that might be more of a motivation to continue and then make some more changes. So I think somebody mentioned previously about sort of like they're feeling a lot better. So it's really important that you notice that you're feeling having more energy after you've made some of these changes. So just keep going.
Absolutely. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. It's a beautiful sunny day here. So hopefully you'll be able to get out and get some sun on your eyes and help with that circadian rhythm. Sanam, thank you so much for being here today. It's been great having you here. We're back next week on Monday looking at the psychology of weight loss. So um, do come along if you can. Take care, everyone, and have a good week.